Okay, I wanted to start talking a little bit about the materials. I'm just going to use my regular Canson watercolor paper, and I have some masking tape that I'm going to tape the corners down. I'm also going to try with this the Strathmore drawing paper. This is just a cheap pad of inexpensive paper. The difference with the drawing paper, it's a smoother surface, and so I'm likely to get a little bit more detailed print out of that. I'm going to coat the paper with two different brushes just so you can see the difference, a sponge on a stick and then an actual brush. You can see both of them are stained with blue, so you can kind of tell I've done the cyanotype process with these before. You will probably want a pair of gloves, because whatever you drip or dribble the cyanotype material on, once it receives ultraviolet light, in other words, once sunlight hit it or a bright light hit it, it's going to start to expose. So even if you get it on your skin will turn blue if you don't wipe it off fairly quickly. So I would wear gloves with this process. I have my part A and part B, and you mix equal parts together. So I'm going to do that in just a second, but while you can see in the light here a little bit, and I'm just in the garage, as you can see, I've got the garage door open so we can see a little bit better. But I'm just going to tape down the corners. This isn't an absolute necessary step, but it will help keep the paper flat as I coat it. And I've already done that with the drawing paper. So I'm going to coat those down, and I'm just going to get this stuff out of the way. And I think I'm ready to coat, so we're going to close the garage door and come back and mix the chemicals, so we'll be back in just a minute. Okay, I've got my gloves on, so hopefully we'll be safe. If I had remembered to bring my apron back from my office, I would have been wearing that as well, but I have some old clothes on instead. And so I'm going to take equal parts A and B and mix them together. I want to show you I have a beaker, but indeed, just to use rudimentary elements here, this is the lid off of a NyQuil or some sort of medicine like that. It's marked with 15 and 30 milligrams. So if I use either one of these, 15 milligrams of each, 30 total, it's probably plenty to do the 4 prints, maybe even more than I need. But I'm going to go ahead and just to show you, do 30 grams of each, or 30 milliliters, excuse me. So I'm just going to pour this in. And I'm under subdued light now. When I say that, I have partly the side door of the garage door partly open. I notice that I have this light not pointed directly at what I'm doing, but above so that it reflects. So that was 30 milligrams part A, 30 milligrams part B, since I didn't bring something to stir them, I'm going to mix them together with my sponge. And they will be a sort of a greenish color. And then I'm using the sponge on the stick. I just coat them one direction. I'm getting a little gunk probably off of my sponge. Means I probably didn't clean it perfectly well the last time. So I'll try to brush that off. But I go in one direction, and then on top of it go the other direction. And again, I'm trying to get some of these little pieces of gunk off. And so, just so you can see the difference, for my other sheet of paper I'm going to use the brush. And just so I don't drip going across, I'm going to flip that around and brush this on. So if I wanted to, I could brush little designs on here and then just expose that, but that's not what I'm going to do with this project. So the drawing paper isn't really made to get wet, so I'm taking an experiment here. And notice with the brush, I didn't get the gunk, but I got a little bit of the hairs from the brush, so I'm going to brush that out a little bit as well. And if my edges aren't perfect, I'm not going to worry so much about that. Get rid of that little hair there from the brush. And I'm trying to get this as even. If I want to leave brush marks, you press hard. I'm doing really nice and even and light and smooth over that. So that's all there is to this part of the process. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to show you how I'm going to dry them. It takes about 24 hours for them to dry. You don't want to use them until they're dried. And again, I'm just using really simple materials here, something that you can probably approximate. I'm just going to put them in a box. And I'm going to lay them flat in the bottom of the box. And if I was worried about the box or anything, I could have put newspaper down or a paper towel down or something like that. But the advantage to this, it cost me nothing. And frankly, just to make this light tight or a little more light tight, I'm just going to loosely close the box. I don't want to seal it or anything, because if I seal it, what's going to happen is it's going to take longer to dry. But just something like this, and maybe I'll close it a little bit more. I guess the one advantage of being in a garage, there's lots of junk. But I can just do something like that. Tomorrow, about this time of day, about 24 hours, this should be dry and we're ready to expose.